Trappers, welcome back to your favourite baby sleep podcast. How are you, Beck?
I'm good, thanks, Sally. We are ready to roll with another back-to-back episode. So you just
That's
mentioned
it.
before you've got your chocolate at the ready.
I know, I was just showing Beck, I've got my Aldi chocolate, which if anyone wants to know, Aldi chocolate is primo.
I was just having this conversation with friends of mine the other day, and I was like, it's not the salted caramel, it is
Salted pretzel.
It's
I've got that in the cupboard.
amazing.
Yes.
Yes, my whole family is like, they see it and they're like vultures. So I always have to get two blocks at the same time.
Yep.
And I've introduced a lot of my friends to it, but they tend to sort of be more on the bank of, or the camp of Cadbury's. But I feel like this trumps it.
Once you go Aldi, this is Lindt rebranded. It is just as good, and there's one that is also filled with peanut butter, which
I haven't tried that one yet,
so good.
but I do love.
Yes.
I love Kit Kats, like getting a Kit Kat finger and dipping it into the crunchy peanut butter. That's also
That makes me think of
nice.
Parent Trap, you know, where they dip an Oreo into peanut butter when they figure out that they both like to do that. And maybe are we long lost twins? That is my all-time favorite movie. Okay, we are not here to talk about snacks but or movies. We're actually going to talk about today positive and negative sleep associations, which I usually refer to as assisted or unassisted sleep associations, just because I feel like we don't need any more negativity or division in the world of baby sleep. Everyone just needs to go and have a piece of chocolate and let everyone do whatever works best for them and their family. So the reason why this comes up for us as sleep consultants is we're often looking at teaching a baby to self-settle, so making that transition from awake to asleep on their own. And often parent-led sleep association, so when it's heavily assisted, can become unsustainable and they can get kind of in the way of a baby truly self-settling. So if we just go back to the fundamentals of sleep associations, first of all, sleep associations are things that a person, baby or adult alike, link with falling asleep. So the cues and routines that help us transition to sleep. So maybe it is your skincare routine and a hot shower and a cup of tea and a Kit Kat finger in the crunchy peanut butter like Beck. Maybe it's reading your book or binge watching an episode of something. And, you know, for me, I even know, and I don't know if I've said this before, I read my Kindle on my left side, and then I know that when I roll over to my right side, I'm getting tired and I will fall asleep. And so it's just those little things that our body, it's ritualistic. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and babies are exactly the same, if not even more so, because all they know is patterns.
Yeah,
they're not making really conscious decisions of like, oh, if I roll over onto this side, I know it means I'm about to fall asleep. So they're just wanting to know what happens next. And if there is a parent-led sleep association, like rocking, feeding, bouncing all the way to sleep, then naturally they're going to look and expect that. So the associations can be assisted and unassisted. And the common ones that we see from a parent-led assisted perspective would be the dummy or a pacifier before a baby can replace it on their own. So they look to have that dummy popped back in 1,000,000 times overnight by the parent. As I mentioned just before, rocking all the way to sleep, bouncing on the fitball all the way to sleep, patting all the way to sleep. Emphasis on the all the way to sleep. And feeding to sleep is a really common one. Unassisted, things like the white noise going on all night long that doesn't require a parent to turn on or off. A baby just hears it and thinks, that's my time, that's my cue, sleep time. The dummy becomes an unassisted sleep association once they can pop it back in themselves, usually between 7 and 9 months. Thumb or finger sucking, that's my favorite. You know, I am pro thumb sucking. They can never lose it. And even just the whole bedtime routine, the sleeping bag going on, all of those things are cues. Beck, do you want to talk about why as sleep consultants we pay attention we pay attention to both assisted and unassisted, but why it's something that we are looking for in our intake forms in terms of sleep consulting?
So when it comes to sleep associations, it really boils down to the sleep cycle. And so
Mm-hmm.
our little ones tend, so from 4 months onwards, once they've sort of moved through that progression, they will have a number of phases of sleep, like stages of sleep that they go through
Mm-hmm.
during their sleep cycle. So the first 10 minutes of falling asleep is when our little ones are closing their eyes and they're drifting into deep sleep. Now, if your little one is being fed to sleep or patted to sleep or held to sleep, and then once they're conked out, they're being transferred to the cot or patted all the way to sleep in the cot, that's how they think they fall asleep. So what happens at the end of the sleep cycle, so around that 45-minute mark, is that they have a little partial arousal in between the sleep cycles. So they wake up just a little bit and their three senses are switching back on, so sight, touch, and hearing, which then means that when they're waking a little bit, they are tending to sort of have a little double check, looking around, little double check, is everything exactly the same as when I fell asleep? And so this is where, if your little one is tending to wake multiple times, it's a really great indicator to look at bedtime and how your little one is actually falling asleep and what associations are incorporated into your little one going down. So for little ones that are being fed to sleep, they're usually feeding all the way to sleep in mum's arms. And then once they're asleep, they're in the cot. So when they wake at the 40-minute mark, they're in the cot rather than in mum's arms.
Mm-hmm.
There's no boob nearby, no bottle nearby. And so something has changed. So that little waking then turns into a full-blown arousal in terms of, hang on, I can't see mum, smell mum, there's no boob in my mouth. I need all those things in order to go back off to sleep. Mum, Dad, come and help me.
Basically a big WTF.
Yeah, like, come on, guys. And so then usually what happens is we go in to sort the problem out. And it's not uncommon then to sort of go back to the methods that we've used initially to get them off to sleep. And so that will reinforce the idea that actually they need all these props or associations to go back down. So essentially that's how a sleep association works, is that if they're, and, of course, we touch on this a lot, Sally, is that some babies can be fed all the way to sleep and sleep a good 12 hours overnight. Some babies can be patted all the way to sleep. Like
they're not the babies we work with.
No, that like they're the they're the babies that are totally fine, and they've got really great strong sleep skills. They're able to self-settle all through the night and so forth, so it's not a big drama. The families that we're working with have the issues, of the waking multiple times. So that's why we look at the sleep associations and whether or not we can rejig where they're placed, or how much assistance we are offering in terms of the falling asleep part. So the first 10 minutes, if our little ones are able to go into the cot 100% awake and then move through the layering system of falling asleep, so feeling sleepy, feeling drowsy, conking out without needing any parental input, then their skill set is going to develop and strengthen. And then at the end of the 45 minutes, at the end of their sleep cycle, when they have that partial arousal, they're going to wake and double check everything's exactly the same as when they fell asleep. If they're in the same spot as when they fell asleep, so still in the cot, they've still got their sleeping bag on, they've got the white noise or brown noise pumping, all of those elements are still exactly the same. So they're the positive sleep associations or the non-parent-led associations. They're going to be there and they're going to help enable your little one to sort of relax and sort of tick the box. That's the same as when I fell asleep.
Yep, so, nothing to see here.
Yeah, and then sort of drift back off to sleep. So so that's how sleep associations can work.
And I think we touched on this, I think, in our what is sleep training episode, that if your baby is one of the babies that does have a strong sleep association, that is looking to have it replicated multiple times overnight, rinse and repeat, it's not because you're doing that sleep association wrong compared to the baby who can be fed or rocked all the way to sleep and then smashes out 11 to 12 hours. Some babies just develop habits faster than others. And not only that, I think it's 30% of babies sit in this camp of the parent-led associations can become troublesome overnight. And it actually has a name. It's not just something that we as sleep consultants have made up to sell the concept of sleep training. It's kind of why sleep training exists in the first place, because there is legitimate data and research about childhood behavioral insomnia, sleep onset association subtype, which is a really long-winded way of saying that babies develop a habit for the way that they fall asleep becomes the way that they want to go back to sleep between sleep cycles. And just like you were mentioning, Beck, that as adults, we rouse out of sleep cycles. Most of the time we don't even know. We pull the doona up, we have a sip of water, we just check our surroundings and go back to sleep. I want to reassure families listening as well that maybe are thinking about sleep training curious, that the rhetoric that we see on social media that sleep training, which is teaching a baby to self-settle without a parent doing it for them, does not stop a baby from waking overnight. Your baby will continue to rouse between all of these sleep cycles, just like you and I do. And when they don't need anything, because they have these incredibly consistent, strong self-settling skills, they hear the unassisted sleep associations like the white noise, they pop their own dummy back in, they bang their legs, then they don't need to call out, because
That's right.
they're not looking for anything. They're like, I've got this. Nothing to see here, folks. And then if they are sick, if they are febrile, if something has got that, you will still hear from them. And in fact, it often becomes easier for parents post-sleep training to be able to determine, oh, my baby needs me. This isn't a sleep training thing. This isn't an association issue. I'm going to go to my baby, of course. So that's why we as sleep consultants, when we are fixing sleep issues, do want to look at how a baby is falling asleep. And even more so than that, we also want to know how they are being assisted back to sleep overnight and what the patterns and associations are happening there, because it's also not uncommon for us to work with babies that can truly self-settle at bedtime and still wake 8 times overnight to be fed, rocked, bounced, patted, Irish jigged back to sleep.
That's right.
So we're looking at the whole night and then also for naps as well. And it's really common that these sleep associations, it's truly a sustainability thing, that often parents hit a threshold of like, I just can't feed 10 times before midnight anymore. And that's fair enough.
Yeah, totally. As a parent and knowing that your little one is waking fairly frequently overnight, the tendency to just sort of jump in there and do what it takes in order for your little one to go back off to sleep really quickly, there's a huge temptation there, because if you know that they just need a really quick pat and, it might take 3 or 4 minutes of patting and then they're back off to sleep, only for that waking to reoccur another hour or 2 hours later and you're sort of doing the same thing. You're just trying to maximize your sleep in whatever way possible. That's really what it boils down to.
We've all got to pick our battles. Yeah,
that's right. But there is a threshold that families will often get to where I can't sustain this any longer. And that's the point where sleep work does tend to work a lot better, because we families have reached the threshold, like they're ready for change. So looking at how your little one is falling asleep is often a really good indicator of what the problematic what's problematic overnight.
Yeah. And all of these things can still be incorporated. You can still have a moment of rocking as part of your bedtime routine, but we're just not rocking all the way to sleep, and not even rocking to drowsy. We're going to do it earlier. So you still have that moment of ritual and connection. They can still keep the dummy. You'll still, of course, feed them before bed. It's just about separating it from the falling asleep part. And it can be done either through a slower wean, depending on your comfort levels, or we can just do some more formal sleep training and separate it and make change in one go. That also depends on a baby's temperament as well and how quickly they respond to these changes. All of it is still kept, but what we want is that all of these no, the opposite, the unassisted sleep associations to do my favorite saying, the heavy
The heavy
lifting for
lifting.
us, so that you're not required just purely for a reset or multiple times overnight that your baby has these skills. I want to touch on something briefly because often I work with families and I see it usually in two different scenarios where they'll say, my baby cries as we are working through the bedtime routine, or every time I put my sleeping bag on, baby starts to cry. Have they got a negative association
Yes.
to sleep? One example of this that I see is that when sleep is feeling shocking for everyone, there can be, and I'm sure parents have developed a negative association. You know, I've worked with babies that will cry just going upstairs in the general direction of the nursery.
Yeah.
If sleep is miserable for everyone and the settling and all of that, then yes, there can be a little bit of a, I don't want to do this, I know what's coming next. Like everyone's heightened and it's not enjoyable. Nervous systems are on red alert. What I usually see is once we fix sleep and we now self-settling and it all just settles, that goes away. And no one's feeling scared about, oh gosh, how long is bedtime going to take tonight? The other scenario is also really normal, that babies can know what's coming next and start the sort of wind down process a little bit vocally. And for me, that's not necessarily a problem.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Or do you have a different take?
No, I 100% agree. I actually feel like it's a positive once you start hitting that milestone in terms of your little one is now, they've cottoned on. Like they know the drill. They know that after the bath, they're going to have a play, then we're going to have the bottle, then we're going to have the sleeping bag, and then like all of these signal the tick, tick, tick to bedtime. And it's a moment of, oh, but, you know, I would rather be out here with you guys, but the clear thing is that they are ready for bed. They are gearing up. They know what's happening. Once they're down for the night, they're going to be totally fine. But they are preempting the idea that they are going into bed. And I feel like at that moment you've achieved your goal in terms of creating that predictable pattern.
And take it as a compliment. You have
a huge win.
You have created a ritual.
And it doesn't stay forever. It doesn't.
No.
Like it feels like it for maybe the first week or two, but then it all settles down, and it's the beauty of repetition. Because, you know, when you're changing things around, most little ones aren't that sort of happy about changing anything that they're doing. You know, they're very happy with the way things are. So changing anything sort of brings about a little bit of like, but, you know, you reap the benefits of having that predictable pattern. The nights get better and so forth. So I wouldn't worry so much about it. Obviously, it's not very nice, but also age and stage too is something worth considering. So most little ones around the 9-month mark are going to have a bit of peak separation anxiety.
I was just about to say that, yes.
Yeah. And so that's sort of that whole but guys, come on, can't we play Cluedo outside? Like can't we do something? Like it's just so it's like it is hard, but you are still setting that really clear expectation that we're still going to go through the rituals of getting you off to bed in the same manner each night, so that when there's no deviation from the plan, it just is what it is. Like they just know the drill, and it's clear for you and it's clear for baby. And that's where things start to settle down.
It also appears then in toddlers in a different form. Like even in my house, I said last night we turned Bluey off and it's time for a shower, and then Dummies, and I got oh man, I don't want to go to bed. So even just by like the TV going off, there's already started the protest, and we just move through it. And it's also another reason why there is so many other hours of the day to fill up the moments of connection, love bomb them, one-on-one time, because it is true that every sleep is a moment of separation. They don't have to love it. I mean, sometimes I don't want to go to bed. I want to stay up and binge watch the latest show and eat my Aldi chocolate. But it's about holding the boundary, and it is okay and normal for them to not want to do that. And the same can appear in babies. They just can't articulate it the same way.
that's a really good point of holding the boundaries of around bedtime, and it's okay. Like, it is okay to hold a firm boundary, create a really clear expectation that we're not mucking around at bedtime. Like, we know you're tired. You've had a really big day. We've had really great sort of structured naps or no naps if you've got an older toddler. Like, we are tired. We are ready for bed. Let's get this show on the road. And just having little ones with sleep associations can sometimes lead to really extended settling periods. So, if we are sort of, if we are getting into that older stage and we've been putting to sleep and it's been working for some time, say a 10-month-old and we've been patting to sleep and it takes 20 minutes. Oh, well, it's only 20 minutes. But now we've got a separation anxiety sort of phase, and now they're not letting us leave the room. And so you're patting for like an hour and 10 minutes. So while some things might work for a short period of time or for any period of time, there's probably a shelf life on it. At some point with a sleep association, you're going to have to start thinking about weaning it off.
I especially see it with an association that happens out of the cot, let's say feeding or rocking, and then you have to do this tricky transfer.
Oh, yeah.
And then they wake up and then you got to go back, and sometimes it can take multiple attempts. And then I often work with parents where mum is pregnant with the next baby and that the toddler is now too heavy, or she just can't physically be doing that, or she's not feeling well enough and it's run its course. And so that's why in those scenarios as well, like we're looking at, yes, we're going to look at the schedule and we're going to look at all of these other things, but it will be about weaning out and dropping that sleep association. And the new association becomes, I go into my cot and I have this great skill and I know how to drift off to sleep and stay asleep overnight. And yeah, I think that's sort of the crux of it, isn't it? That you and I teach babies to self-settle, but not just for like the fun of it. It is to then be able to get this consolidated night sleep, to transfer the skills, to get great naps in and create sustainable great sleep for families.
One thing that often confuses families is the dummy. And it is
because it sits in the assisted and then becomes unassisted.
Yes. And for a lot of parents, they find that the dummy is quite a positive association, or it's a great tool to use in order to keep baby nice and calm, or like in between feeds, and they settle off to sleep beautifully, and we get these nice long stretches and so forth. And then maybe from the 3-4 month mark onwards, sometimes it becomes problematic because it's falling out all the time, and now they're having multiple wakings overnight because they're going through the progression, not the regression. And so you're finding that you're up and down multiple times because they're wanting it replugged. That's where it becomes problematic. Like, that's the age group where we often sort of find families debating whether or not they're going to give the dummy away. Only you can answer that question, because what I might find is problematic might be 2 or 3 times a night, like that. For me, I felt like I wouldn't want to get up 3 times plus have my feeds or whatever is also in the mix. And other families that are sort of happy to sort of bang out 11, in and outs all through the night. So it's dependent on how you sort of deem your nights to sort of look. But the key is that once you teach your little one how to find, search and replug the dummy back and present opportunities for them to learn it, then it's a positive, because they can find and replug for themselves, and you're redundant again overnight. So,
and sometimes you do need to actively stop giving it back though. So even let's say at 9 months old and you've seen your baby pop it in, pop it out all day, and even for the first half of the night, but at 3 a.m. they still want you to go and do it. You can then also say, oh, okay, we've got this association that happens in the early hours, in those fragile hours of the morning. I can still check in. I can still say, hey, you're okay, and I'm going to leave, but you now need to replace the dummy on your own. And they pick up on that very quickly.
Yeah, I think one of the key things for the dummy is that while you may be keeping it just for sleep and naps and so forth, which is great, just if you can, like that's a great idea. However, sometimes we forget that we need practice opportunity to find and replug.
Hmm.
So if you're finding that there is a problem with replugging overnight, or they don't quite yet have that skill set, you've got to offer opportunities to practice. So, maybe 5 minutes each sort of wakeful period, you're putting them onto the mat and the dummy's in front of them, and you're
Yeah.
patting in front and encouraging them to find your dummy, and guiding their hand to the dummy, guiding their hand to their mouth, all those little things just to
Yeah.
teach them that they have the ability to do this for themselves rather than just laying there.
Hoping for the best.
Yeah.
And I often get if you've got another child, like an older child, I often get the toddler involved as well. They can be mimicking, babies love to mirror the behavior
Yeah.
that they see. They can be cheering it on. It becomes this fun game. And then maybe I pop a couple of dummies in the cot just to increase the
Yes.
likelihood of,
Yeah.
being able to fish for it in the night. But it also means that you then have the confidence because you have seen the baby successfully do it multiple times. And so,
Yeah.
you're not asking them to do something that they don't know how to do
Yes,
at
absolutely.
4 a.m.
Yeah.
I worked with a family yesterday in Canada who has a dummy, and they've currently got 2 overnight wakings. And the first one, and so that wasn't the problem, but the first one was a dummy replug at 10:30, and the second one was a feed at 3 a.m. And this baby was 5 months old, and I said, "That's fantastic." That is a very normal. I would have personally, as the sleep consultant, I have an issue if it was 5 times before midnight we were popping this dummy back in.
Yeah.
But one quick replug with a sleep cycle changeover and then a quick feed in the morning and back down, that is a very normal dummy experience before a baby can replace it on their own. So I think that's an example of what you're talking about before, which is that would be a normal expectation when we've added a variable that they can't really control yet.
Yeah.
And that would be within my limits as a sleep consultant, but also me as a mother. I would think that I can manage. I can do one dummy replug before midnight and one feed later on. But any more than that, and I'd start to think, ooh, have we got an issue here?
One other issue that can arise with, assisted associations, so rather than the negative ones, quite commonly we'll have little ones that are really keen on having carrier naps. And, this can sometimes be really tricky. The reason why it becomes really tricky is because baby is so used to falling asleep upright in the carrier
Yes, they're not used
motion.
on the back.
Yeah, so they're upright, they're using motion, there's some padding, there is many elements to the sleep association at this point. So it can be really hard then to go into the night or to have any type of nap where they're laying flat or prone. So one of those, and in terms of like being able to sort of move away from a carrier nap to being able to fall asleep on their back in the cot would be to use the sideways move of going into the pram.
Yes, I love that. I do that all the time.
Yeah, the pram is really good for that because you're not weaning the motion element. You are allowing them to become accustomed to laying on their back and falling asleep, but you're using motion at the same time. So it is a sideways step, and then eventually they go into the cot. But carrier naps they are great, especially if you've got other siblings in the mix. It's just that if you find that there is a issue arising from it, that's a sleep association that we need to sort of look at.
It always makes me think of Shrek and, the peeling of the onion or the layers of the parfait. That's what sleep associations. Can you tell I've got young children?
I knew Shrek, yeah.
I'll send you a clip after. We're like peeling back the layers of these associations, and it doesn't have to be that we've ripped the band-aid of a sleep association. Sometimes that's more than appropriate, and other times we can do it a little bit more from a weaning process. We're going to do less rocking. We're going to swap rocking for patting. We're going to swap patting for just a eyebrow stroke and a loud shush. There are lots of ways to wean out these parent-led sleep associations, if that is also what you are after. And I think that's a really good example of we're not going straight from a tight, snug cuddle carrier nap to the stark contrast of you're on your back
Yeah.
in a very still environment. Good luck with that. We can do a step down,
Yeah.
which then evolves into they're used to their back. Now we take away the movement. Now we get them into the cot. And I think that's a really good example of how parent-led sleep associations can be weaned.
Well, also how sleep consultants can really create opportunity for parents to feel like they're ticking their comfort boxes as well, so it's not just a one size fits all approach to things, and sort of the sleep training is the be all and end all element. It is meeting parents where they're at and building confidence around sort of doing a sideways move and seeing the benefits that are happening from that, and then moving to the independent sleep. So it's having a sleep consultant help you decipher what the sleep associations are and how to move through them and create opportunities for change is super beneficial.
Yeah, there's lots of tips and tricks that we can do to make this, again, sustainable. I think that's one of the main words that I use with sleep. We're not the ones there doing it at 4 a.m. or naps and linking sleep cycles. So we need parents to be able to see it through. And so there's lots of staggering layers, Shrek parfaits of baby sleep when we're looking at moving away from sleep associations that are no longer helping.
Positive sleep associations or unassisted ones, we've touched on the sleeping bag, which for various reasons, for a lot of little ones, particularly my third, when I would get the miracle blanket out as they're swaddled, her eyes would roll back in her head because she would just know she was ready to sleep. And the same with the sleeping bags as they got older, they were just so ready for sleep that you just sort of have to whip it out and they know, and they're super relaxed. But it's, once it's on, it doesn't change. It doesn't come off until their nap is finished or their sleep overnight has finished. So that's positive. It doesn't change. And then the brown noise or the white noise. So, of course, we've touched on this before, Sally, that in order for it to be a positive association, it needs to be on for the entire nap or the duration of the night. So just making sure that if you've got a device that switches off after 40 minutes or whatnot, change it to something else that plays continuously, because if they're falling asleep with the noise on and then 45 minutes later that noise has switched off, something has changed, and they're going to click on and realize that, hang on, something's not quite right here. I need all those elements recreated. And so that's where you can find these wakings start to occur again. So white noise.
And if it's something with a lullaby, something I did with a family this week was we kept it because baby liked it and it was a nice little moment. But again, we just brought it in earlier. So they played it whilst the jammies were going on. And so it's still sort of signaled wind down time, but it didn't go into the cot with them only to turn off 15 minutes later and sort of upset the sleep cycle. So you can keep them. We got to move it earlier, or the thing that turns off, as you said, we're going to swap it out. Can you think of any other, I'm just trying to think of any other unassisted sleep associations that we haven't touched on. It's really just the rituals and the
comforters.
Yes. A baby's
so
lovey.
If you've got a little lovey, and if it's in the cot with them, they can find and cuddle into it themselves. They don't necessarily the only issue with that is when they have those moments of just throwing it all out the cot, and then you've got to go and sort of find it,
or draping it all over their face and terrifying parents.
Oh yes, actually that is so common for anyone that's got a little one that loves to put their comforter over their face. That is so normal. It is so normal. It's very freaky to see, but it's a very common thing that happens. It's a sensory.
Or sleeping with the rabbit's ear in their mouth the whole time. They're sucking on the bunny and it's just this crispy ear in a baby's mouth. So all of those things we want them to be able to find and put them back to sleep. All right. I think we've pretty much covered everything.
I think we have. Yeah. Sleep
Okay,
associations. Yeah.
So, yeah, go and have a look. You might be on the best schedule with great feed times, beautiful bedtime routine, and things may be still feeling tricky. Have a look at how your baby falls asleep. What association do they have for falling asleep and being resettled multiple times overnight, and how you could be doing less of that if you feel like it is getting in the way of these amazing self-settling skills that we as sleep consultants love to see for you.
Perfect.
All right. Well, that's us. We will see you. I'm going to go and eat my chocolate.
No,
and
I'm going to go to Aldi on the way past.
Yes, salted pretzel, here we come. I bet people better not clear out the shelves after they listen to
be
this.
sold out now. Yeah, exactly right. Well, if there's
Take it back. It's horrible. No one likes it.
Yeah, no, it's really bad.
Go Cadbury. Aldi, if you want to sponsor us, you know where to find us.
Oh, actually, just touching on that. Oh, sorry. I should have just said this earlier, but note to anyone listening that Aldi middle aisle has the snooze shade, like a travel shade, up for sale at the moment.
Yes. Okay. I
Yes.
have also seen they've got some merino wool sleeping bags. I don't know if they're still there, but a few weeks ago they had merino wool sleeping bags.
Yeah, well, sometimes if they don't sell out within that week, they're still in the middle aisle, just in the little clearance section. So
That's how
keep
they
an eye
get
out
you.
for those. Yeah, but they'll bring them back in and out, so keep an eye out for those travel shades. I think they were
Definitely.
$19.99, and the sleeping bags, which are always good.
Hashtag not sponsored, but we wish we were.
Yes.
All right. Well, happy shopping, happy eating, and happy sleeping, everyone. We will see you on the next episode of Nap Trapped.
See you later. Bye, team.
Bye.